Hello, welcome to Dadpuzzles. We're so lucky today. We have a special guest, Dr. Piper Gibson. Thank you so much for being with us today. Dr. Piper Gibson is a doctor of functional medicine, doctor of advanced holistic nutrition, traditional naturopathic doctor, and is a board certified doctor of natural medicine. Piper helps scared, frustrated, and overwhelmed parents get access to the tools and education they need so they can start reducing their child's tic disorder symptoms naturally. She is an international best selling author and the founder of the Tic Disorder Institute, Regenerating Health. Uh, so, her foundational program teaches parents holistic methods that will restore their child's health in the face of a potentially confusing and worrying diagnosis. After going from stay at home mom to children's holistic health expert, Piper has been able to help many families just like hers to gain control of their child's tic disorder using food, functional lab testing, and natural approaches. She is the corporate educator for GX Sciences and was recently featured in the Authority magazine. She can also be heard on the Autism Wellbeing podcast and 15-minute matrix. So, without further ado, please welcome Dr. Piper Gibson.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Ajani. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. You know, there's so much that that we can talk about, but I would like to. People are very excited here. Like this is the whole cheering.
Love
I
it.
guess. Okay, so here we go. So there's so much that we can talk about. I think the first thing I'm talking about, that I would like to chat with you today is is about how did you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you, like where are you from originally, for instance?
So I am originally from New Mexico. I live
Okay.
in New Mexico
Okay.
currently.
Okay.
And, I really got into the natural health space and the natural health sphere when my son was diagnosed with a transient neurological tic 12 years ago. And so we tried all of the conventional approaches, the things that were recommended. And when that approach failed us, I decided I was going to go back to school and relearn everything I knew about health and wellness so that I could try and find a solution to help him.
Oh, that's very nice. And I think I listened to one of your podcasts. You mentioned, like a joke about from jeans to jeans. That was pretty
Yeah.
nice.
Starting out as a child, I had always wanted to be a fashion designer. I thought that was just the coolest thing. And so I actually went to college. I got a degree in fashion design. I worked in the fashion industry for 6 months. It was actually the worst job I've ever had on the planet.
Oh,
And when my son got sick, I did a complete pivot 12 years ago. And
right.
so now I actually specialize in nutrigenomics and am one of the corporate clinical educators for GX Sciences. It's now called Fragron Genomics. But
Okay.
I really found this passion for genetics. And so the joke is like, God said you should work in genes. And he really meant genetics, not denim. So
Right. Right.
that's where that story comes from.
That was very neat. And this is good information because I think a lot of folks they are in a situation where they think, oh yeah, that's it. I'm stuck. I went to school to do this and now I'm late. I cannot do that. I think this should inspire people that you're never late to pursue what is really that you're like you feel like you should be doing. Correct?
Correct. Absolutely. And I've always been a big believer, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit more, that, you
Right.
can really encourage your kids to do anything. And if you can instill that in them, then when their own kids get sick and they want to go back to school, they will have no hesitation.
Fantastic. That is true. Thank you so much. So no, so in terms of the fatherhood, with what you're doing in terms of the holistic approach. So I was wondering if you can share some insights and strategies and success stories that will provide a guidance to those people that are seeking the natural solutions to their challenges. Like in terms of all these neurological disorders from ADHD, tics, anxiety, etc., etc. What do you advise folks so far from your experience, what you've been through?
So what I find is that many of those things, tic disorders especially, but ADHD anxiety, I find that they are not purely neurological. We know that there's so much connection between the gut and the brain. And I do find that every client I work with has issues in the gut for one reason or the other, food sensitivities, leaky gut, their genetics, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But what we're really starting to find, and really what more research is starting to tell us, is that these things may not simply be in the brain, and they are really impacted by other things that are going on downstream.
Right, right. Oh, you see, so that's a good point. And so a lot of times, folks they're not familiar much with the functional, like medicine, with the natural medicine as well. How do you, what are the actionable steps that they can take to support their own, or also their children's neurodevelopment? Because this is something that folks they're not familiar much with what you're doing.
Right. Well, I think people hear the word natural or they hear the word holistic and they think that I'm going to come over and sage them and rub crystals on them and it's going to be very woo woo. But
Right.
really, when we're looking at holistic, we're looking at the whole body. We're looking at that connection between all of your body systems. And so, one of the best places parents can start with the health of their children is stepping away from those packaged, processed, box bottled foods, eating more nutrient dense whole foods, cutting out the sugar, really starting to look at, what toxins might be in and around their home. What are they washing clothes with and dishes with, and what are you cooking on? And so really your environment is going to impact your health. And so I think for parents who are just starting out and they're looking for solutions for, maybe struggles they're dealing with their own children, is really
Right.
starting to look at what are you eating,
Right. Read those
what is going
labels.
on in your environment. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because a lot of times, like you'll be surprised how folks they buy things they don't even bother to see what's what exactly with they're buying. Awesome.
It's
Awesome.
true. And it's a whole, I call it a re-education. I think that parents really don't understand the impact of food because it's just not what we're taught.
Right.
And when I get a hold of them, I'm like, oh, we're going to have to re-educate you on all of the things, like what you should really be eating and what you should really be getting into your child.
Okay. Okay. That's this is very good point. We like I certainly appreciate that, and also, uh, so we could just maybe talk a little bit more about things that father can be benefiting from in terms of the like your field. What are fathers? What can the audience gain from? For instance, how do you feel that um, like in terms of the let me see here, because I don't want to ask you definitely, like about your relationship with father because that's really our goal today. But
Right.
I think it's very important to make our podcast useful to talk about things that as fathers they can we can learn from, um, so that we become better, like in terms of ourselves and our family. So, as a natural medicine doctor, what are the common health concerns or conditions that fathers often face, and how can they be effectively addressed or managed through natural medicine?
Right. I see so many fathers dealing with stress.
Right.
And we have to look at stress as not just my boss is a jerk or, I'm really unhappy in my job. But what are those other stressors? What are those stressors? What are you eating? I mean, what you're putting into your body can be a stressor.
Right.
What is in your environment? Those can also be stressors. But, one of the things that I really find very interesting in working with families is
Right.
that usually you have a father whose
Mm-hmm.
men seem to be very more analytic. They
Right.
want the data, whereas moms are like, oh, I feel this in my soul. They're much more intuitive. And
Right.
so I think it's really important for dads to realize that when you're in a partnership and you're working on your own health or you are working, on your child's health, is that there are going to be two differing views of, what mom sees versus what dad sees.
Right.
And this is where, for me, I think the process of doing testing is really beneficial because it gives dads that analytical information. It gives them something that they can look at. There's that hardcore data that they can check out. And
Right.
so for me, I feel like dads are really overwhelmed by stress.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many ways that we can start to mitigate that stress in our life. One is, through what we're eating and our diet and our lifestyle, but definitely looking at, how are they relaxing at the end of the day? How are they unwinding? Are they adding more stress by grabbing that glass of whiskey? or are they, doing some meditation and some deep breathing and maybe some exercising? So there's,
Right.
lots of different ways to look at how we can help dads through the process of becoming more in tune with that natural health perspective.
Oh, that's fantastic. And also, I think one of the addition, for instance, you know how we can, if we're trying to be fully present, for instance. So if they get home and they put the phone away, let's say for the next 3 4 hours, this is only my time and the kids and the farm. I think that also minimizes drama big time, right?
I absolutely agree with that. And, I was listening to Tony Robbins on something this morning while I was getting ready, and he was talking about, there's these studies now that are saying being on social media and being on your phone actually is going to increase your anxiety and stress. So I find that really interesting because we see our phones, and the TV and these kinds of things as our way of unwinding at the end of the day. But really, it adds
Right.
that extra layer of stress. So I love that idea of being present. Put your
Right.
phone down at the end of the day and really
Right.
focus on what you need to be focusing on at home.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you. So, can you provide insights on how natural medicine approaches can support fathers in managing the stress and anxiety? I know you mentioned, like, for instance, like, what we can do in terms of, let's say, being fully present. What we're putting in terms of food, but you know, like anything else you wanna add in terms of the kids, for instance, as well.
I think it's important for everybody to know what's going on in their bodies.
Okay.
And sometimes we may have stuff going on that may not be an outwardly obvious symptom, but when we start to test and we start to look at, the reason that I love nutrigenomics is because we're really going to be able to look at what nutrients do you really need based on your genetics. It can help with anxiety and stress. I like to say there's a clue in your poo. So when we look at stool pathogen testing, what are these underlying things that are going on in your gut? And so I think for dads, it's really important for your own health to really take a look at what's going on under the hood. If your check engine light comes on, you're going to take your car to the mechanic, you're going to get it checked out.
Right.
Dads, think of your body and your symptoms and the way that you're feeling as your check engine light. Oh, it's better to get it checked out sooner than later because you don't want that check engine light to keep damaging the inside of your car.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And maybe to add to two or three things there, like for instance, so that while we're talking about it, I think it's good. Let's say, for instance, if you're noticing, like yourself, you're short of breath out of sun, it's something that we should probably get back to the gym, or like slowly, like exercising, or if like you're constipated a lot, like modify your diet, those
Exactly.
kind of things. I think is those are good to fix before, they say the prevention is better than cure, correct? So
Right. And I think for all of us, I mean, it's
right,
not just fathers, not just mothers, but
right,
everybody is we've really been brought up and influenced in this idea that there's a pill for our ill. There's this magical solution. And when you really start to look at the data, when you start to look at the studies, you might really be better off, changing your diet and lifestyle than taking a pill that might just cover up those symptoms for you. So I think that's important for all families to
right.
remember is that don't let your health get to the point where you're searching for that magical pill or potion.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. And there's what about the fathers that are interested in incorporating the natural medicine into their routines? What do you advise those fathers?
Yeah. So dads, honestly, I feel like when you are a good showing your child, you're really laying it out. Hey, these are the things that we're doing. So, how do you start your day? Do you start your day with a healthy breakfast? Your children are witnessing this. Are they seeing you go to the gym? Are they seeing you work out? And so that is really influential for your child. So when we're looking at that natural medicine approach, it's things that you can incorporate and
Right.
do on a daily basis that really creates this good impression for your child because they see you doing that, they're going to mimic it. There's a study that says if you go to the gym and your kids are seeing you work out, they are more likely to have a healthier lifestyle because they are going to do the same things. They see you doing it. And so I think it's important for fathers to remember that, easily you can change your diet and your lifestyle and the things that are going on in your environment. But
Right.
the fact that you can do that in front of your children and show
Right.
them like this is how we lead a healthy life is really beneficial.
Thank you for reminding us, really, because I think I'm one of those victims where I would exercise at night, they're sleeping. So when in the morning we, like we meet up, that is healthy, but okay, but we don't know what he's doing behind the so I think it's good to show them, like you mentioned, because
Right.
they like to imitate us a lot. Even sometimes you cough, my son also coughs. It's like, whoa, yeah, is that close? They copy everything. So it's
Hmm.
good to show them the great stuff, like like the gym, or just maybe, because normally I would exercise with them at the park or something. But I think, like you mentioned, it's good to kind of show them exactly what are the routines that we do, so that they can copy those good stuff. Also, in terms of eating, like we eat with them, like we show them what we're eating every day, like, and we eat together. So hopefully that when they grow up, they will continue to eat and eat, do things that they've been doing with us.
Exactly. Exactly.
Fantastic, fantastic. So here at that puzzle, we like to talk a little bit about fathers, because you know, this is about fatherhood, and we want to make sure that we have, uh, you know, uh, the relationship between us and our daughters, us and our sons is great, and us and our wives as well. So you as a daughter, maybe like you can talk a little bit about your dad. I know, like you mentioned, like he's not with us, and
Right.
so
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I mean, my dad was really influential in my life as far as he was always very encouraging. Hey, you can do this, you can do whatever you want. I got the wild idea when I was in high school that I wanted to play baseball. I was a gymnast. Baseball was not my thing. But he was going to teach me everything I needed to know because I was decided that I was going to go play baseball with the boys.
Nice.
I never did it, but my dad was going to always be that type of person that's like,
Right.
you want to do it? Let's figure out how to make it happen. I wanted to go to the Olympics as a gymnast. He was going to figure out how to pay for me to get the lessons. And so that to me has really influenced me as a parent because I am able to turn around and tell my kids, hey, you want to do this? Let's figure out how to make it happen for you. What is that goal? What are those things that you want to accomplish? So, my dad was always very open and honest, and I could call him and say, hey, what's your opinion? What do you think?
Right.
And so we had a really great relationship as far as him being an amazing influence on my life.
That is fantastic, because I mean, you'll be surprised. Honestly, maybe it's the education, or I'm not sure exactly what is going on, but you will see some of the families where a parent tells the kid, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. Like, you're already putting a block on your child. This is not a good thing. So how do you feel about, let's say, how do you prefer to receive the support and encouragement from, let's say, your kids right now? How do you prefer them to receive a support from their dad? Or like if your dad, when you're growing up, how did you prefer to receive the help from him when he was around?
Yeah, I think it's really similar is my dad always allowed me to kind of make the decision. He wasn't going to put the idea in my head. But it's the same thing when I look at my sons. I have two sons. When I look at my sons with their dad is he's not putting the idea in their head, but he's really helping them to get to that goal. So my oldest son's going to be 18 this year. He's working on his Boy Scout, Eagle Scout project right now.
Okay.
And my husband is, hey, how can I support you? What do you need help with? These are the skills I can offer you. Do you need me to edit this for you? What is it that you need help with? And so really just being there as, especially for older children, as that guide. Like, they get to make the decision, they get to come up with the idea, and then we're there to help them facilitate how to make that happen.
Okay, okay. And also, like, if you can, if we see, like you can kind of maybe influence, like if you want to sometimes, like say if you see something that is you think is better for them, like you can probably put some ideas a little bit on them, and then let them work on that. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we have very open discussions about, hey, I saw this, on the internet, or, hey, I was reading this article. And then we have a very open discussion about it. I mean, my kids have come to me and said, hey, have you listened to this podcast? And I'm like, no, what's it about? And then they're really kind of influencing me to go out and explore that because they've already educated themselves on the subject. So
Right.
for the fact that they have this ability to go out and learn, has been really awesome.
Fantastic. That's awesome. So, what activities or shared experiences do you cherish the most with your father? That
For
back in the day. Sorry.
Yeah, I think for me it was we did a lot of travel. He took us on really cool vacations, Hawaii, Las Vegas. Really spending that time with him. But I think for me, looking back now, because he's not with us anymore, is that he got to hold my sons and meet his grandchildren and be with him. So for me, I have great memories of him, but for me to be like he got to see his grandchildren before he was gone is probably the biggest cherished moment for me.
That's beautiful. Wow. So, you know, Dr. Gibson, I'm so happy that we are very, what we had today is something that is, I really, what, would like to do that going forward because, you know, the attention, like a lot of times, people's attention is very short nowadays. So I think it's good to make it things short and clear and get the message, but also like we would like to create a question where, like where, what questions would you like to pose to the next guest so that they can be answering that to the dads?
Ooh, what kind of questions do I want to pose to the next guest? Um, I don't know. I think I would just like to know more about how we can support fathers being fathers. I mean, there's so many times where mom is the one like running the show, but how can we be more supportive as a family as a whole
Right.
of dads and what they're dealing with and what they're going through, and how our support can also benefit them.
Oh, I see. I see. Oh, fantastic. Thank you. So
Yeah.
I will pose that question to the next guest for sure because,
Yeah.
um, yes, because I'm sure many dads, let's say, they can be in different situations and they would like to be heard, maybe, or come on, hear me here, like hear me out, etc. So I think this is a good question. I appreciate that. So is there anything else? Let's say, how can folks reach out to you if they have any questions?
Yeah. So you can find me on my website. It's www.regenerating.health.
Hmm.
I have a Facebook group called Tick Disorder Secrets, a Natural Approach. And then they can always grab the book. It's called Tick Talk, Common
Okay.
Misconceptions,
Okay.
Natural
Okay.
Approaches, and Real
Nice.
Conversations. It is
Fantastic.
available on Amazon, but you can grab the book. But
Fantastic.
super easy to find me with my name, Piper Gibson. There's not a lot of us out there.
Right, right. Awesome. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate that. It's been really amazing to have you on, and I really hope that we can, like talk again. Because there's a lot of like developments. I'm sure you have a new. I think you have some new projects you mentioned. Like in the pipeline, correct?
I do. I have a digital course coming out in September. Just it's called Tick Disorders 101. It's going to be the basics for families getting started with their children's tick disorders.
Uh-huh.
But now that we've had this conversation and I've talked about how everyone needs a re-education on diet, we're going to be doing that program too.
Fantastic. Hey, why not? I mean, it's never late. It's always good to remind people. Like you'll be
Yep.
surprised. Like you might think you know something, but somebody else, they're in a different, schedule, category, whatever. So they may not necessarily know what you know. So that's
Right.
fantastic. Fantastic. Well, thanks so much. I appreciate you coming through, and like I will end it here, and then we'll see. Let's see. One second. One second. Okay, so I move my mouth here. There we go. One second. Stop.